Let's talk about Oregon's defense. So, did they have their best game of the year against Indiana? Absolutely not. What was not as good of a performance as they had against Penn State, particularly when you consider that they were at home and off a bye. However, I do want to reiterate, after having gone back and watched the entire game again, Oregon's defense was not the problem on Saturday. This is why you can't just comb through box scores and understand everything about a college football game, because you might look up and go, wow, 30 points allowed at home. Not good for Oregon's defense. Yeah, not the problem. Not the problem whatsoever. So a couple of thoughts, because I am going to go into what I did see as being problematic in this game. Elijah Surratt is really good. I actually thought Oregon had plenty of moments where they defended him well. Terry McCauley, who is a longtime referee, I don't know why, but he just came across the Indiana go-ahead touchdown and said what I said at the time, which is it was offensive pass interference. So, and this is not the refs robbed Oregon. Like, no, I just think there was pass interference that wasn't called on Surratt by Brandon Finney earlier in the game, certainly, but I really don't think that Oregon's defense played poorly in this game. And I think a couple of the numbers, Mendoza had a first down scramble that was aided by a hold, and I didn't think that they were getting gashed. Indiana had to work for it. They went up and down the field, but it wasn't with big chunk plays. It was just really good execution. Situationally, you would have liked for them to have been better, but Oregon on third down defensively in this game was actually pretty darn good. Let me pull up the number real quick. Whoops, that's the Penn State game. Gosh, what a time that Penn State game was. Indiana was 5 of 14 on third down. That's not bad. It's not incredible. Indiana's was better. Oregon was 3 of 14, but Indiana was 0 of 1 on fourth down. So on the money downs, Oregon's defense held Indiana to 5 of 15 and 326 total yards. Like, that has to be enough. That has to be enough. But a couple of things that I'd like to see the defense clean up going into this game against Rutgers. Number one, the tackling. The tackling was pretty poor. So many moments in this game allowed Indiana to keep drives alive or get bigger plays than they should have, because Oregon just didn't tackle well, and it was just basic fundamental stuff. And a lot of times after a game like this, you'll hear players or coaches say, hey, go back to the basics, make it simple again. All right, Oregon tackling wise, particularly on the perimeter, get back to the basics. Go for a guy's legs or hip area and wrap up, because, man, Oregon tackled high a lot, and they missed some plays because of it. The worst one of the day came courtesy of Jerry Mixon, who did a couple of decent things in this game, but overall, Oregon's linebackers, as I talked about earlier this week, did not play very well. Indiana had second down and I believe it was 13 as they were driving in the third quarter, and they drop back to pass, and the running back runs in the flat, and Mixon just makes a really weak effort at a tackle in space. And it's not like he was one-on-one and had to, guess which way he was running. He was just trailing him to the sideline. And he was right there in position, and he just does not make a good tackle. Jaden Kennedy missed a couple of tackles as well. There were other examples. I don't mean to single out those two guys. Those were just moments that I had stand out to me during the game and stood out again on the rewatch. So that was definitely not something that I felt like Oregon did as well as they have for most of this season. Another thing, between the tackles, there are too many times where Oregon's linebackers are just getting run over. They're making the tackle, but they're allowing that extra yard or 2 or 3, and it sounds like something very small, but it's the difference between 3rd and 3 and 3rd and 5 or 6. And I think that comes down to just being in the right position and, frankly, being tougher, more physical than the other guy, having the right mentality. That's what that often comes down to. But there were several moments like that where it's like, man, I thought that was going to be a 2-yard gain. Why did he pick up 5? And that just allowed Indiana to just have these small plays continue to add up that led to their touchdown drives. But another thing that I'd like to see, and Oregon did get better with this in the second half after what happened in the first, so credit Tosh Lupoi and the players for executing. The rush lanes were not well disciplined at all times in the first half, and Oregon didn't properly account for the quarterback run. That led to a couple of conversions or good plays for the Hoosiers offense in this game. You think about the Indiana's first touchdown drive had a quarterback scramble on third down, and I mean, you just had Bear Alexander and Amari Washington both try to make outside pass rush moves, and it's wide open, and Mendoza makes the right read, which is what he's really good at the quarterback positions. He makes the right reads, and that's why Indiana's offense had as much success as they did. But again, I really felt like watching the game back, Oregon made him work for it, and Oregon's defense played well enough to win the football game, and the offense just wasn't able to respond. You were just going back to the well over and over and over again. I haven't said this stat on the show this week. Oregon's offense had 267 total yards in this game. That's astonishing. And part of that is something I'll talk about later. But got a couple of takes here for Spencer's scale of agreement about the defense. One about the defense, one about Oregon in general. Do you feel like Oregon's blitzes aren't very effective? 100%. It was evident to me watching in real time and on the rewatch that, man, Oregon is trying to disrupt Fernando Mendoza, and they're just not doing it. Indiana executed their blitzes way more effectively. The simulated pressures that Indiana brought were causing Dante Moore's head to spin, and they were getting home, disrupting his timing and throwing him off way more frequently in this game. Mendoza finished 20 of 31 for 215 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. It's not as if, I think because Oregon lost the game, you look up and it was by 10, you feel like Mendoza was just unbelievable. He was incredible, and he made some good throws in this game. Figured he would because he's got a great receiving core, and he's a good quarterback. But would you have taken that stat line before the game? Yeah, I would have too. Which goes back to what I said. The defense played well. They played well enough to win this football game. This is not another one of those stat lines or storylines that feeds into the narrative. If Tosh Lupoi's defenses don't play well in big games, no, they played well enough to win. Offense just straight up did not. I did think that Oregon tried to bring pressure, and Indiana's offensive line and their pass protection unit as a whole, which is quarterback, offensive line, your tight ends, and your running back, all of those people combined with the offensive coordinator and position coaches, that's how pass protection gets orchestrated, and Indiana was really good. Oregon brought plenty of blitzes in this game, and they just didn't consistently get there. Mendoza was sacked once, and it was on a straight four. I think it was a 5-man blitz. I think Betcher came from the second level on a blitz, but Amari Washington just bull rushed a guy, and if he hadn't gotten there, then Mateo Uyunglele was getting held, but was going to get home anyway for the sack on third down. That was early in the game. But after that, it did definitely feel to me like Oregon's blitzes just weren't nearly as effective. And that comes down to scheme and execution. Are you calling them at the right time? What protection's Indiana going to? Where do you need to bring pressure from? And Oregon just wasn't ready for it. Go make adjustments and be better going forward. Dana White's burner sends this one in. SSA, Oregon's about to go on the same fall off Penn State just went through, similar to 2021, winning at Ohio State and then falling off the rest of the season. I think this is more sent in the vein of like, hey, do you think this is possible? Not, oh my gosh, the sky's falling, everything's a disaster, horrible, no good, very bad. The fall off that Penn State went on, that would include losing this week at Rutgers. That would be comparable to Penn State losing the following week after losing to Oregon at the buzzer to UCLA. So, yeah, I have more faith in Dan Lanning and this staff than I do in James Franklin, who's, of course, not employed at this particular moment. So, the same fall off, that's a 1. That's a 1. I won't make it a 0 because you got to go like way overboard. Crazier things have happened than a team getting off to a 5-0 start, being ranked in the top 5, and then falling apart in the second half after one game. Yeah, I just don't see that happening. Oregon's track record after losing regular season games has been quite good. Think back to the Georgia game, got blown out, came back, rattled off 8 straight, all by double digits, including a ranked win at home in pretty convincing fashion. I think it was 38-7, the score against BYU. When they came to town, obviously the end of that 22 season had some poor moments, but yeah, I trust in Lanning. We trust. Let's put a little bit of faith back into Dan Lanning and the coaching staff. I understand the confidence might be a tad shaken after the game, but no, I put that at a 1. I don't think Oregon's fallen off. I still expect them to make the college football playoff.